Here's my quick start guide to the ToneX One pedal. After receiving this pedal from the store or in the mail, you'll have to actually go to the ikmultimedia.com website, and you'll need to register for an account. You can do that by clicking on this little icon up here, and then click on Create an Account. Or if you already have an account, you can just go ahead and simply log in. And then after you've logged in, you go to this icon up here and click on My Products. And what you want to do is you want to download the IK Product Manager software here. After you've installed that software and you've logged in, it will look like this. And you can click on this register button right here, and it will let you put in the serial number for the product that you purchased, in this case your ToneX One pedal. And then after you do that, it'll ensure that the software that you need to download will become available here to download and install onto your computer. In my case, I actually own the ToneX Max software, which includes a lot more than the freely bundled version that comes with the pedal. And so that's what I'll be using here today. The ToneX software that comes with the pedal is made for use on your computer. You can open it up as a standalone program like you have here, or you can run it as a plugin in your DAW program, your digital audio workstation, such as Cubase, GarageBand, Pro Tools, I think Pro Tools, um, Reaper, many other programs like that. You'll just have to check to see if it's compatible, but more than likely, if you're using a pretty standard DAW program, it should work. Inside the standalone program, it gives you the ability to actually load different sounds and then fully utilize them and even save them to your favorites for you to load onto your pedal itself later. So you can plug this into your computer using a USB-C cable, and then you can simply plug your guitar directly into the right side, and then you can use the software here on your computer, using the speakers on your computer, to actually demonstrate or demo these different sounds that are available. If you go to this little hamburger icon up here, it'll access the settings, and you just got to make sure that your input device is your actual ToneX One pedal, as opposed to whatever other sound devices you might have plugged into your computer. So I'm plugged in, and I'm able to actually go through and load different sounds. Like this is a nice sound that has a Klon Centaur. Let's see. Oh, that's what this is. This is the Klon Centaur emulator. Really popular with people that like overdriven sounds, like bluesy, just kind of, not super distorted, but just a little bit of drive. So that's what this software does. This is made for use when you're plugged into the computer, using it only with the computer, for you to kind of just, jam out, come up with different sounds and presets and save them in here. So after you've found the sounds that you like, you can simply, you can go to all tone models here and demo through them. Like I can load this one and try it out. If you like it, you can just click on the star here and it'll add it to your favorites. And there's many different places you can get these different tone models from. These are ones that I actually imported into the software. Like here's a Electro Harmonics Big Muff Pi op amp. I actually uploaded that to ToneNet, so you can download it if you want to try that out. And then let's see here. By the way, if you want to actually create your own, that requires a complex process of actually having an audio interface in your computer that you can plug your guitar directly into, but then take the output, route the output of your guitar into either an amp or a pedal, and then have the output of it, or have a microphone in front of the amp going back into your audio interface. And you would do that using this modeler option up here. This is a little wizard that takes you step by step through what you need to do to capture your own tones if you want to capture your own equipment, whether it be a stomp box, distortion pedal or something like that. Unfortunately, it doesn't work with delay pedals. It's only meant for like very short modeling of like distortion patterns or tone patterns, not time-based effects, unfortunately, like reverb or delay. So again, this software here, or the plugin version, is meant to be used with your computer solely, just to use your computer as a modeling device, which is great. If you're using the AW software to record sessions, you can use your sounds that you develop in here in your own sessions, in your own mixes, and then later on, if you want to perform live, you can get the same exact tones from this pedal by loading that. And that's the next step we're going to go to now. Here we have the ToneX software running. Um, if you plug your guitar into this and you're running it on your computer, if you play your guitar, you're not going to hear anything. The reason for that is that it actually expects you to have the ToneX pedal plugged into an external audio input. So we're going to go ahead and take care of that now. Let's see here. By plugging the actual output of this into my audio interface. Now you're probably going to hear a little bit of a whine. I don't know why that is. There must be something with my audio interface. I heard that before I plugged the ToneX into it. So I don't think it's the ToneX pedal that's the source of that whine you might hear there. I was able to minimize it quite a bit. So now that I'm plugged in, I can actually hear the pedal. Get myself a little bit more gain. It just amplifies the whine. Full disclosure, I'm actually using the color box by JHS as like a direct input so that I can actually plug this into the color box and then plug that in my audio interface. Like I said, the XLR coming from my color box into my audio interface here, which is a Tascam US 1608. I'm actually using power on the pedal from a separate power source, a battery power source actually. So I don't know what's up with that whine, but anyway, so here we have it. So the ToneX One pedal, when you're using the ToneX editor software, okay, like I said, it's expecting you to have this output plugged into an amp. And right now I'm using a clean Marshall JCM um, uh, emulator with profile with a cab as shown. So right now it's in stomp mode, okay, so that means that when this is on, it's going to be applying the Marshall clean tone. Now if I turn it off, oh wait, oh very weird. Okay, that's without the emulator. Okay. Okay, here we have the ToneX editor software. You may be hearing a little bit of a whine. I assure you that's from my audio interface and not from the ToneX pedal itself. Um, in fact, actually, if I unplug my thing here from the audio interface, this is the color box. I'm not sure. Okay, so here we have the ToneX software. This software, when it's plugged in, when you have your ToneX plugged in the computer, it's only providing power to this device. This device, the ToneX One pedal, is no longer actually acting as an audio interface to your computer. Okay, it's only being powered here. Okay, so you have to plug your guitar into it on the right side, and then plug a cable from the left side to your amplifier. In my case, I'm not really using an amplifier. I'm using a powered PA system, so it's not going to affect the tone, like an amplifier would, okay? It's going to be relatively flat, even though I'm using a kind of cheap Harbinger powered PA speaker. So, and I've actually got my microphone, um, I've got that speaker microphone, so the speaker is going to affect the tone a little bit, but this is the only way I could plug it in to my audio interface to avoid noise, because there's something weird with my audio interface. Um, it's like a weird digital whining noise. I don't think it's related to the ToneX, because I heard it even when the ToneX wasn't plugged into it. So maybe something about looping from a USB powered device into an interface that's also in the same USB unit. Even when I went through another pedal using a battery um, power supply on my pedal to go through to send it through a direct input box, it didn't work. So this is isolated enough. So okay, so with this pedal, you've got two modes. Okay, you can put it into the stop mode here, and in this case, I've got a nice clean Marshall JCM profile loaded. Very nice sounding. In stop mode, you can turn it on or off. So here it is without the effect. I'm using humbucker pickups on my guitar, so you hear it sounds very muddy, not very defined. But once I turn on the amp, it's much more defined. The other mode is dual mode, where you can switch between two different settings. And as you see, when I clicked over here, it actually changed the color of the different lights. So in this mode, it's going to switch between a Fender Bassman in the same kind of clean Marshall tone. I need to turn the volume up a bit. Okay, so in this editor, you are able to edit the configurations of things, and I believe that it saves immediately to the pedal. So for this Fender Bassman thing here, it's not very defined like the Marshall is. It's a lot more muddy. So let's go ahead and see if we can fix that up. Um, I can make it sound louder by going to this comp section here for compressor. And instead of running the compressor after the amp and cab, I can actually put it pre, like this, and it will put it before. And I can turn it on by pressing this button. Okay, that's not doing it yet. Let's see. Let's add some gain. Now it's louder, but not clear necessarily. So that's not really helping. Let's see. I guess the best thing to do here in this case, there isn't an option to EQ things. I guess that would be a very good thing for them to include somewhere. Um, Unfortunately, you can't load like pedals before your amp and cab like you can in Amplitude. This ToneX is very amazing at the tones, but it's very limited in the power you have. So let's go ahead and pick a different preset to load on here. Let's try this. No, that's the same thing we're already using. Let's try this one here. Actually, I just loaded a drive-based one. I don't want that. I want something that's clean. Let's go to the librarian tab up here, and let's see if we can find a way to load primarily clean tones. I guess I could try to order by character and then scroll down until I get to the clean ones. High gain, fuzzy, stomp, distortion, stomp, fuzz. Okay, how do I clear this out? Okay, so what we can see here in this librarian here on the left side, we've actually got the presets that are actually loaded onto the pedal. So you can we'll go through this in a moment here, but you can actually go through the different presets that are loaded on this pedal. You actually have with the ToneX one, you actually have quite a bit there. It looks like you've got at least 20, if not more, maybe 32 different presets that you can load into the pedal, and then those are always there even when it's unplugged from the computer. On the right side, we have your software library that has all the different presets that you can possibly use. And if we go, oh, here we go. At the very top, we've got clean. So let's go ahead and try this jazz amp. Okay, now, so whatever I have selected over here, it's going to load this preset into it when I double click. And if I want to, okay, that doesn't look like that's working. Let's see, double clicking. No? Okay, I guess you have to drag it. There we go. Yeah, overwrite it. That's fine. Okay. I might not want that effect that's on there. Let's go back to the editor. So on here, we've got modulation. We've got some kind of a chorus load. Let's go ahead and turn that off. Maybe I don't want the reverb on. Let's turn that off. I guess I'm going to try to switch to a different pickup with this preset. There's a reason I like that Marshall JCM, because even with my humbucker, it's very clear with the profile it's using. Okay, let's go back to the library and let's look again. Let's try this EV8 Stealth. So I'll go ahead and drag that over. And by the way, you can take these presets that you find over here and you can drag them into these little slots here as well. You know, so if I wanted to take this and move it into like the first preset area, I can do that like right here, like this. Okay, again, I don't like those effects. Let's go ahead and turn the phaser off. Let's turn the reverb off. Let's just hear it clean. And maybe I don't need the compressor either. Let's turn the gain down. And turn my guitar down a little bit. Turn the amp up a little bit. That's nice. So that's basically how the ToneX editor works. You know, you have these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 slots that you can work with. The compressor you can put pre and post. The reverb you can kind of move around. The delay you can move around. The modulation you can move around. But pretty much the amp and the cab, they're kind of the thing that everything is kind of around. Even the compressor you can put after. The noise gate you can put at the very beginning or after the amps. The noise gate, so that you know, like whenever you're not, if you hear like a buzz when you're plugged into the system, you hear that like the noise from my guitar. There's a buzz. You can turn this noise gate on, and you can turn the threshold up a little bit and kind of adjust it so that it'll cut off the sound unless you get loud enough for it to activate it. And then that's how it keeps things, you know, keeps the hum of your pickups out if you have really noisy pickups. Okay, let's go ahead and go into the actual jump start where we go through the actual use of the pedal, understanding how that works. So again, you know, in in summary, this editor mode allows you to actually edit the sound directly that's loaded into one of these. Um, you can of course like drag this up here. Um, you know, or you can go to the librarian mode where you have a lot more, you know, access to the whole library, all your presets. So it's essentially loading the sounds and editing the sounds that are actually loaded in your ToneX pedal, so that when you use it live later, using the instructions we're going to go over next, you'll know how you can actually, you know, you can actually load those presets that are preloaded on there. So before we go into that, let's go ahead and make sure that in the librarian that this first preset is something different. Let's just go ahead and drag this over and override that. And let's make sure that's loaded in the stop mode. And let's turn all those effects off. That's myself. Let's see here. I like to kind of just have it clean. It's just the way I use it. Ooh, compressor after, huh? Just so you know, compressor is a tool that controls um, the volume. If you know if your guitar is not very loud when you're playing quiet, it can actually turn that up. You just basically turn this gain up, but then it's through the threshold and attack that it actually controls, making sure that it's not too loud. So like right now, if I play soft without the compressor on, if I wanted to turn it on, I could like kind of control that so it's a lot more consistent. So let's say we have like a low threshold. I turn the gain up relatively okay. Where I'm just barely hand picking. As you can see, it didn't get too loud because this threshold brought it down. I can even bring it down further, and it definitely doesn't get too loud. So, you know, you can use this threshold to kind of control exactly like how much it squashes how loud it gets when you do get loud. And of course, if you turn the gain down and turn the threshold up, it's a little bit less, you know, aggressive. You might be able to hear that. Okay, so let's move on to the actual tutorial part, where we show you how to use the actual buttons and knobs to really kind of go through these different settings here. Okay, so by default, this big knob here is the volume. So it's not going to change the actual tone. It's just going to make it louder or softer. And then these three right here, actually, now that I think of it, I didn't realize this, but those actually act as EQ. So it seems like maybe you can't really tweak those through the software, which is kind of odd. That actually makes me kind of second guess myself. Is there actually a way through the editor to, oh, of course, you go here and you've got lots of EQ. I don't know what I'm thinking. So if I was to load a certain kind of sound, but I wanted a little bit more treble, okay. In fact, in fact, I think I can probably use these. Yep, there we go. I can use the top three here to turn the knob, and it's going to address the treble there, like so. Now, the one thing that you can't do, yeah, that's really cool to see it, like adjust it as I turn each of those three. The one thing you can't change is what's typically known as they call this like the Q. It's kind of like what area of that range, what area of the bass range is it really focusing on boosting or cutting, okay? And so that's what this HZ here is. And so you'll have to like adjust that to taste so that when you're live, you know, and you've only got these knobs here that whatever you're turning or cutting, you know, it's set appropriately the way that you want it to be. Okay, so moving forward, we got the three EQ knobs, and you've got the volume. Okay, and then of course, as I told you, like you've got this right here. Whoa, that switches between the two different modes. And I dropped my pick. Anyway, okay, so let's go on to the next thing that you can do. Okay, so there's an alternative parameters method here. So this right here is called the Alt button. Okay, and what you do is you press it, and all of a sudden the knobs start to blink. Okay, now this first knob becomes the gate. So when I have my, I'm going to turn my amp up, or not my amp, but my speaker up here. You hear that noise, right? So if I turn this noise up here, do you hear how the noise goes away? If I turn it down, you hear a bit of noise from the guitar, right? If I turn this up, eventually it cuts it off. So only when the guitar is playing very loud. So like right now I'm going to rattle my guitar. It's just kind of crackling through that threshold that I'm setting with this first setting. So now when I play loud, it's all there. Okay, so then that's the first knob controls that noise gate option. In fact, if we go back to the software and we look at it, if I go to this noise gate here, okay, let's say if I turn it off, let's see what happens. If the noise gate's off, but I turn this knob, all of a sudden it turns it on, and that controls the threshold. That very first little teeny knob right there controls the threshold, okay? That's when these are blinking after you press the Alt button, okay? Next, the middle controls the compression. So if I go to compression settings here, and I turn that knob, you'll see it controls the threshold. So if I want it to like compress even more, I'll turn that down a little bit. It's a little bit loud. So let's turn the compressor off. If I turn it on now, it doesn't get that loud when I really. So I can of course turn this. By the way, if you want to make sure that like when you hit a chord, it's really punchy at first, but then it kind of dies out, you can adjust this attack. And so that's how long it takes for the compressor to come on. So like watch this, if I turn the threshold down really low, turn the attack really high. I guess that's not really coming through. Let's see, let's turn this up a little bit. It's a little punchier. Put the attack really low. Yeah, you hear that when the attack's up, that like when it comes in at first, it's kind of a lot punchier. And if you put that before the amps, it might push the amp a lot more, especially if you're using like a drive-based one. Let's try a drive-based one. So let's put the compressor before. And let's put that low threshold. Because if it's louder before the amp, it will drive the amp more, so that the distortion from the amp is pushed even further. Typical fucking guitar solo-y stuff. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, next option, the third knob in this alternative mode is actually the reverb. So even if we turn the reverb off, but then we turn that knob, you'll see that it actually turns it on, and then it applies more. So let's turn off this delay. And actually, let's just load a clean one on again. Okay, so we turn that on. Okay. By the way, if you turn the gain down, the gain is actually the amount of volume that's going into the preamp emulation of the amplifier, and then the volume is how much is coming out. So if you turn the gain down and the volume up, you'll get a lot cleaner tone. And if you want to just be on that edge, you can turn the gain up a little bit. So it's got like a little bit of sizzle. That's the magic of the ToneX pedal, is that its strength is that it can emulate a guitar amplifier so well that, you know, like whenever you're doing low gain, it's not really pushing or distorting much. It's you can turn that up just right. If you turn the gain up, you might want to turn the volume down. Now, the only reason I'm playing like that is I really want to like test out how it sounds when you're playing a loud note. So I turn this down, turn the volume up. And by the way, actually turning the volume down on your guitar a bit can kind of help out with that as well. There's a volume control here that I think controls perhaps the input volume of the guitar. So anyway, yeah, playing with that, and of course even the EQ. There's a lot of options here to really shape the tone. Oh, that depth can really kind of help in the presence. Turning the treble up. By the way, the bass, it's nice when you're playing guitar and it's really bassy at home, but if you're playing with a band, it's typically a good idea to kind of maybe cut the bass quite a bit. That way you're not competing with the bassist in the sound space, the frequencies, so that, the bassist can be clearly heard and your guitar can clearly be heard, but like you're not competing with each other in those lower bass notes. Because even if you turn the bass down all the way, you can still it's still there. It's kind of like a mid bass, but like yeah, not like super bassy. Yeah. Um, okay, so let's see here. So that's the alt mode. So by the way, in the alt mode, when these are blinking, if you press the alt button, okay, this big knob controls the actual gain. So as you can see here, if I turn this, it turns the actual gain. Okay. Unfortunately, you have to press the button again to go into normal mode, and then it controls the volume. You turn that down. Turn it down more. Go back into alt mode, turn the gain down, press the button again, turn the volume up. Much cleaner. Okay, moving on. Next mode. Okay, so as I told you, um, the foot switch here, depending on the mode you're in, okay, you're either in the dual mode where it's switching between the two different settings that you've got loaded, or you're in stomp mode where it's actually turning just one effect on or off. So like, you could load a distortion on here and use this solely as a distortion pedal rather than switching between 2 amps. Or you could even just use it for 1 amp emulation on your pedal board. But it's really flexible, as you can tell. So let's see here. So um, okay, before we go into switching between the dual and the stomp mode, which I think is coming up soon, let's go over just the tuner mode. Okay, so if you hold this button down for a bit here, it starts to go into this mode where this starts to blink. Okay, so while the tuner's active, you can use the foot switch to tap the tempo of any effect with BPM sync turned on. So if you're using a digital a preset loaded that uses the delay setting, okay, this is where if your band, you got a drummer playing and the drummer is going, and it will start to go in time with that. If the drummer's playing really fast, there you go, it speeds up. So So it'll sync with whatever you're pressing on the foot switch here. Okay. Um, let's see here. So with the tuner, let's see how this tuner works. Okay. So it automatically detects that I'm doing a certain note. Here, I'm going to turn that down. Um, let's see here. I guess if I hold it down again, it'll go back into normal mode. Okay. So I'm going to turn that down because that's kind of loud. There we go. Okay. I'm going to hold it down to go back into tuner mode. Okay, so now I'm going to do the first string. So I'm using drop D tuning. So the first one's D. It probably detects that. No, it's detecting it's in tune. But do you see how it's blinking there on the bottom? That means I can go a little bit higher. Not too high. Oh, too low. I've heard it said that you should always turn it down and then tune it up till it's just right, rather than tuning down to get to the note, because then your note might go a little bit further out of tune. Uh, it's always to go down and then tune up into it. So okay, I'm gonna go into normal tuning now. So I'm gonna tune this up. So obviously it's not showing you which note you're like kind of coming near, and that can be kind of a disadvantage. So where a typical tuner that tells you the note that you're tuning into would be better. But this is still pretty good for the limited capability of a ToneX one pedal. So I'm gonna go ahead and tune up until I'm close to that E. In fact, I'm gonna. Okay, so there's the tuning mode. Okay, so here's how you can switch between the two modes, between the dual mode and the stomp mode. So let's see here. How do you switch between the two modes? Okay, so if you hold the Alt button for 6 seconds, it goes into what's known as a global setup mode. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. When you hold it down for 6 seconds, you'll see that these buttons light up. The first one, okay, this bass micro knob, right? If you move it all the way to the left, it will be in dual mode, which currently is in. If I turn it all the way to the right, it will go into stomp mode. If I move it all the way back to the left, it goes back in dual mode. All the way to the right, it goes into stomp mode. So after I do that, if I hold this button again for 6 seconds, now I'm in stomp mode, and I can just continue using it in stomp mode. So no effect, effect back on. If I hold it down again for 6 seconds until those two light up, there we go. And you can tell that it's in stomp mode because this one's orange. So it's in orange when it's all the way that way. And if I go all this way, it's green. Now I know I'm in dual mode. Let's see what else we can do here. So if you take this mid knob right here and you move it fully counterclockwise, then you'll have the cabinet active on all your presets. Okay, so this setting here, if you use your ToneX pedal with an actual amplifier, okay, then what you might want to do is you might want to turn off the cabinet emulator on this pedal so that it's no longer on. So you can turn this all the way clockwise, and it will turn the it'll bypass any cabinets that are set up on any of your settings. So now if I press this button here, you'll see that the cabinet is still globally bypassed. So that way it won't be emulating on any of your presets. It will not emulate the cabinet. So that if you're plugging this into an actual amplifier cabinet, you know, essentially you keep your amplifier clean and use this as like an effects pedal, maybe even with the an amp simulator or even an actual effects pedal. This will make sure that you're not basically layering a cabinet emulation over the actual cabinet of your amplifier that you're plugging into. So if I go ahead and hold this down again for 6 seconds until it turns back on again with the green and the orange, there we go. We can turn this one all the way down like so, and it will allow the cabinets to be on again. And then the last setting here, and this is really good. Okay, this is where you can calibrate the input of your guitar. So, if it's not really, when you're using a amplifier simulation, okay, um, how much signal you have coming into that amplifier really can affect, how loud it can be. So even if your guitar is turned up all the way and you're not getting a very loud signal, you can turn this knob up a bit. Like I'm going to turn it up all the way. So do you see how I'm getting red? That means there's too much. Not very good. If I turn it down a bit, still clipping, okay. Turn it down a little bit more. Starting to get closer, so you want to just turn that just right. Let's try it again. So that just calibrates optimal signal coming into it so that the pedal can do the rest of its thing. Now in this global mode still, if we rotate this knob here, okay, it sets a global value for the pedal in general. It's not bad having it turned up. And as we can see that global volume up here in the software, you can see it's actually controlling it there. All the way down is off. Yeah. So if you have like a really loud, amplifier, you might want to adjust that just right. But I'm gonna leave it up for me. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how we can actually change the presets using the pedal now. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and hold this down for 6 seconds to get out of the global mode. Okay, so it's pretty simple. You tap it once, this goes into alt mode and changes what these different buttons do. And as you can see, when it's in normal mode, the actual labeling on the top, bass, mid, treble, okay, or in this case for the big knob, it's volume. That's what gets controlled. And then when you press this button once, and they start to blink, then it becomes the gate, the noise gate, the compressor threshold, the reverb setting. I forget which setting that was. The reverb. It was I think it was the time. Nope, it's the mix. I wonder if you can actually remap those so that they control something different. Because you never know. You might want it to control not the mix, but like the time or something like that. But it is what it is. Okay, so it's the mix by default at least. Okay. Um, So I guess that does make sense. Like if you've got a reverb on there, sometimes it's a little bit too wet. You know, you're hearing more of the reverb sound than your actual clean guitar signal. So all the way down means no reverb. It's kind of tasteful to kind of have just a little bit reverb, but you never know. Like if you consider yourself an ambient artist, it doesn't matter how much reverb you use. And obviously with delay and reverb, you're just in heaven. Let's see here. High time. So yeah, delay and reverb are nice. Okay, so let's see here. Let's go into browsing mode. Um, yeah, okay. So obviously the global mode where you hold this down for 6 seconds changes what these do, and you have to remember those. But at least the single press between alt mode and normal mode, you've got labels to understand what's going on. Okay, so if you actually want to change or browse to the different presets, here's what you need to do. You actually have to press both the foot switch and the alt button at the same time to go into browsing mode. So I'm going to go ahead and press both at the same time. And as you can see, it's blinking in a weird way at first. Okay. Okay. And so right now, these three knobs refer to the three different preset slots, which I'm assuming are 1, 2, 3, like kind of like the A, B, and C. So let's see here. So the first one is dual mode preset A. So if I turn this, it switches that preset. Not bad. I need to turn this down because it's crazy. Okay, turn it again. So obviously I've got it in dual mode right now, and that makes sense why these two knobs here are lit up. So if I turn this this middle knob, why am I not seeing? Oh, okay, maybe I have to press the button, and now I can switch through this. It's like, oh, I don't like that one. Let's turn it. And as you can see, the knob changed color, so it's really good. So if you could imagine all of these presets that are loaded are ones you like. I don't necessarily like all these. I have yet to load all my favorites, but I typically like clean ones a lot. So you could basically, in this mode, you could keep turning it until you find something that you like a lot. It's like, I don't like that one. It's like, oh, I want to keep this. I like that. Okay. So now I might hit the button. Oh, now it's on the third mode. Okay, so now I can now it's on the third. It's blinking here, and I can start to turn it. Oh, it's like a bass guitar preset, I think. I'm gonna go to where's my favorite one? Crap. Oh, maybe is it this one here? Then I can always go up here and change it. Turn that reverb off. Turn the volume up. Turn the gain down. Now, obviously, I can do that on the computer, but that's just to like make this third one. So let's see if I move out of this. Oh, I don't like that. I'm gonna go back to the one I just came from. As you can see, the reverb's off still, and my gain settings are up. So whenever you make changes in here, it's actually changing the preset on the actual pedal. Okay, so that's great. So you just press this button and it switches between the three modes, and then you just use the knob that's blinking to turn it, and it changes color to let you know it really did change. And I guess once you're done, you just press these buttons both at the same time again. Let's see. Okay, I just went into a different mode and I don't even know what mode I'm in. Oh, that's probably, let's see, if I double click both of them, the first one is blue, the second one is red, and the stomp one is like a turquoise kind of color. So if I press both of these again like that, blue, red, okay, I see. It's loading the color that corresponds to the actual preset. And if I guess if you wanted to change that in the software, you could click here and change the color selection. Like, oh, I want the first one to be red, and I want the second one to be purple. So now it's red and purple, red, purple. Okay. Oh, I don't want purple. You know what? Change my mind. I want blue, red, blue. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, that holding these pressing these buttons both at the same time goes into preset browsing mode. That's amazing. And so right now we're on this mode. Yeah, we're on each one. Okay, so that's how you change the presets. That's really cool. So if you load all of these with like your favorite ones, you can totally reconfigure it on the fly when you're out at a show or something or playing with some friends. Okay, let's see here. Once in browsing mode, the blinking micro knob indicates which one's selected. To change the preset, yeah, you turn the knob. We went over that already. Um, Okay, you can also change while you're in a certain preset, you can change the gain on it by using the big knob. So let's see here. Um, I could actually turn this. What am I changing when I do that? It's not the cab. Okay, so if I press this button here, it switches between the volume and the gain. So even when I'm in preset mode, I can press the Alt button to switch the big knob between the volume and the gain. So that's cool. Okay, so let's turn that off. Go back to like the normal mode. Okay, I got noises I don't like. Okay, so lastly, let's see here. So if you hold this Alt button for 3 seconds, 1, 2, 3, it goes into this middle mode, which is called safe mode. Um, okay, so in this mode, the safe mode, no matter what you do, if you happen to accidentally turn knobs or something, it's not going to change anything. So if you're afraid of like something getting screwed up while you're out performing, you can just hold this down for 3 seconds and put it into safe mode. I guess if I hold it down for three, I can take it out of safe mode. And now, it'll adjust the bass and the treble and whatnot like before. So that's cool. You can, um, 1, 2, 3, safe mode. No matter what happens, it's not gonna change. That's really cool. Okay, now we're back to normal mode. Okay, so tuning modes. So let's go back to the tuner again. If we hold this foot switch down, if we hold the foot switch down long enough, it'll go into tuner mode. Okay. Now while the tuner is active, if we press the Alt, oh, okay. If you wanna be able to tune but not have people hear you going, you can just press the Alt button and now it's gonna mute it. And so you can tune without the sound being heard by everyone else. That's great. Okay, like that's everything from the quick start guide. Um, I guess if I make another video, I'll go more in depth into all the other features that are available maybe through the software that are important. But that's your basic guide. Luckily, hopefully under an hour.